I'm Wes Warren. I'm here with Greg Stanley. And today's topic is, are you a bad fit for your own office? Obviously, that could mean a lot of things, Greg, and maybe you meant it to mean a lot of things, that topic. But first, would you describe what you meant by that? It impacts your practice and what you could do about it.
Well, it's very common to see someone come from another office. Maybe they've, worked in dentistry 5 years. That's not the issue. That's common. But when they come with a strong personality, they have that sense of, I'm right, you're all doing this wrong. It's kind of that assertive personality trait. And so there you are back in the back, neck deep, trying to take care of patients. And they're up running the office, and they're slowly building, they're adding staff, they choose them, they train them, and pretty soon it's not really your office. You become a bad fit for your own office. And so in effect, this person has put you in a position where you're forced to change or sit there and buck the system. Are you going to, for example, she might be from a corporate office where it's all about dollars and cents, percentages, daily goals that are they're so strident with this stuff. When they lose a patient, or they lose a nice patient, the conclusion is, oh, that's a bad person. We can afford to lose them. Let's keep going. As opposed to the office that you might have envisioned. You might have seen a culture, for example, that's very nurturing for everyone. So people come in, get a little bit of dentistry, get a lot of dentistry, whatever they need. Whereas the person that's kind of become your gatekeeper, she might, for example, just want to see big production people, run the rest of them off. And pretty soon you've got a real problem you're trying to fix with marketing. It's not uncommon. And she hasn't been planting seeds in your practice garden, so to speak. There's nothing in the next harvest. So that's when you become a bad fit for your own office. She has made quietly a toxic environment where, you can get money out of people, but they don't refer, they don't come back. That's probably not what you had in mind. As you try to fit yourself in there, you don't fit.
What do you say to doctors that feel like that they are a bad fit, that things have changed in a way, and systems and how things are done in the office, to where they almost don't recognize it? A lot of people are there, certainly to some degree, Greg. But what do you do about this?
What's a good question? It's a good point. The doctors, many times when we weigh into the story, they already know that this is a factor of very strong personality. It's a person that just believes and knows without any doubt they're right about everything. In fact, if you could bring up a topic they know nothing about, whatever comes to their mind, they're going to defend it as right. They know everything. When that's the case, until that person is moved aside, this will continue. That whole concept of you as a bad fit for your own office, that will continue. So I've watched doctors try to calm that down and turn it back into their practice. And if that person senses weakness in the doctor, it's just the reassurance they needed that they were on the right track. And they make a practice that's not good for you. And you know what? You might survive this in a really large city where you can start the marketing process successfully. In smaller towns, and I don't mean tiny towns, but in smaller towns, your practice will eventually get branded as a bad place to be a patient and a bad place to work. And I doubt there's a doctor out there that has that in mind.
What about situations where doctors feel like, and I get this a lot, where they feel like, they've had a lot of turnover, and maybe they don't have this person you're talking about that's super assertive, but there's so much turnover, and everybody's, I don't want to say lackluster, but close, very marginal in terms of their effort and everything. And the practice they once knew, is no longer here. It's completely different. What is advice? And I know a lot of people are sitting there and they probably would feel like an outsider. Hey, this isn't my practice. You know, what has happened over the last couple of years?
It's
How do
another
you,
example, yeah, of
yeah,
not
how do
being
you
right in your own
regain
practice.
and reestablish control, reestablish yourself and reestablish the practice the way it once was?
You know, Wes, there's a lot they can do when they're the only doctor. There's a lot they can do to offset the toxicity. But when there's an associate, people come in, get damaged, and leave without you ever getting to weigh in. I mean, it becomes a negative situation. What can they do? First of all, you got to look at who else could lead. And maybe you'd say to me, oh, nobody can lead. Nobody's a leader here. Well, you'd be surprised how many people we've heard doctors title bad leaders or not leadership material that tend to have ideas. One of the things Wes and I do when we go into an office is talk to people about what they would change if they were in charge. And the people that have a lot to say tend to make good leaders. People that don't have anything to say, because they're just there punching the clock, they haven't even noticed that patients are being stepped on. They're probably not leaders. But you don't know yet until that question is asked in a place where they feel safe talking about it. You might have leaders within your own ranks, and you can start to rebuild with new emphasis, with new focus on certain things. Like, for example, we want to see our referrals increase. A practice where patients are not put at the head of the line, where patients are first, referrals are one of the first things to die. Patients know, yeah, this is a dental office, and it's a normal dental office. It's about what you would expect. And that's the last thing you want to be, about what they would expect. Because then what you get is what I call just the passive referral, meaning they will only recommend you if somebody asks, who's your dentist? Well, I have a dentist. And they say it in a way that says he's nothing special. And so that's the kind of referrals. Oh, you might be getting referrals, patients telling you they're referring, but they're not selling you. We've got to get a leader in there that can champion 5-star customer service, can really get behind this. And, you know, sometimes, Wes, this is not an overnight turnaround.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're going to have to market while you're putting all this together so we can keep the patients coming in, hit the numbers, make the goals, and pay the bills while we're changing our practice back into a patient-focused office.
When you say 5-star practice, you know, as far as service and everything, what things would be on the list of characteristics of a 5-star practice?
First of all, let's take it from the opposite end, the outcome. A 5-star practice, for example, when somebody says, who's your dentist? They say, if you got a minute, sit down. I want to tell you about what it's like to go in a dental office and they give you a pill, they give you a shot, you don't feel a thing, everybody's nice to you, it's affordable. In other words, they go through that. That's 5-star. That's the 5-star outcome. See, but because some people already think they're a 5-star office, but if they're not getting referrals sold to other people out there, it's probably something less.
What's the if you were to stick a number to how many referrals a 5-star office should be getting or would be getting, what number would you give?
That's a good question. The answer is more, meaning it tends to want to increase. And you find yourself thinking, wow, if I market, I won't be able to get all my referrals in. That's kind of how you know it's going in the right direction. The answer is more. As every month there's 1 or 2 more referrals than the month before, you're doing well. That's a 5-star office. And let me just remind you about something if you're hearing this. This is a process. It runs through, you can't have a 5-star practice if the hygienists are 2-star hygienists, or if somebody at the front desk has a real issue, bad attitude or whatever. You can't have enough stars everywhere to offset. So when you have a 5-star office, everything is great. Everything is smooth. In fact, unless the practice is growing, that is relative to numbers, you probably haven't achieved it yet. When I say every month more people are trying to get in, you can sense it. Pretty soon you start to worry. We have so many new patients. I don't even know if we have time to produce. That's a good guideline. When you're starting to see it fill up, first thing it would do probably is slow marketing. You might not shut it down, but anything that hadn't been paying well or whatever, that'd be the first to go. But then I'd fill it with referrals, because referrals are more likely to more quickly refer someone else and to refer them stronger. So yeah, becoming a 5-star office, we have a tendency, or we see this a lot in consulting. People start down that path. That was kind of the vision they had in mind when they started into practice. But then they got some bad fits at the front desk, or bad fits usually in hygiene or somewhere, and it started to not be their practice. And they turned then to marketing, and marketing began to feed the system, and they were hooked. It was like an addiction. They can't have the practice they dreamed of, even though it would be possible, but it doesn't look like it is. You know, it's the practice is in the hands of ruffians. They're having to buy patients. They're going on what sticks on the wall, you know, can stay. It's not what they had in mind.
And turning that around, you say you'd start with a good leader. Is that fair to say?
Somebody who shares your vision, somebody who thinks that practice should be like that. We're working with an office right now where the leader has an incredible focus on customer service, and it's paying off. I mean, she is incredible. In fact, she stands in stark relief to everyone else. Her focus is so on customer service. In fact, if she wasn't there, this office would be a corporate chop shop that wasn't corporate. It would be acting like a chop shop.
Not because the doctor wanted that, but because that's the kind of the default of the team almost, really,
And
unfortunately.
that kind of came out of COVID, by the way.
Right. I'll say we worked with another office where they hired an office manager, and she was kind of that know-it-all. She promptly got rid of us, and we heard back a couple years, you know, about a year and a half later, and the practice has dropped by 40%. Kind of basically this story you're talking about, where somebody gets in and she has that
know-it-all
and very, very assertive.
The stars start disappearing on your practice.
Yeah, she asserted herself. We don't need to do that. We don't need to call people back. We don't, if they're late, we can get, charge them, all this kind of stuff and she drove the practice into the ground, essentially.
She did the ultimate, and this is the one that you really got to watch for. This, you can take 3 stars off your practice. When she starts screening people over the phone to keep what she calls bad people out of the office, a lot of times she's trying to make her job easy and keep her workload light. A lot of times with really invested effort, those people would be great patients.
Yeah, and this person could be hard to spot too, because a lot of times they're smart enough to be good to the owner and show, like they're doing it, that I'm trying, and I'm listening to what you have to say. But when they turn back to the team, there's somebody else.
I'll tell you, there's one other thing in answer to your earlier question. How do you know if we got the 5-star service on the field? If the practice is trying to grow, however, and it comes in different strengths. I've seen it really try to grow, but a lot of times in an effort to control chaos, staff will quietly put the cooling rods back in the reactor and slow the practice down. They don't like it. Some staff don't understand that we have to meet the needs of today. There's a bunch of people trying to get in right now, And that's a little chaotic. So let's get rid of that, you know? Um, and that can happen so quietly. I had an office, Wes, here in Phoenix that was turning people away to try to keep them out of the office after 4 in the afternoon. And the doctor said, I can't figure it out. It just died. The afternoon used to just be the biggest time of the day. Well, she wanted to go home early. She was in charge and she was incredibly assertive. And she just made the practice go away after 4 o'clock.
We see that a lot, actually. Yeah, where
Much.
they'll literally shape the practice to their hours, what they want, not what patients really want.
Now, we've talked a lot about how bonus helps this. Definitely, it helps this. But if it doesn't reach that person with a strong, dominant personality, in other words, she wants to get home and cook dinner, or she wants to take a week off or whatever, it's more likely to reflect what she wants than what you and the practice and the other staff want.
Yeah, that's a good point. So bonus does play a big role in
It does a
turning this
lot.
ship around. One couple things to keep in mind with bonus is you want it attainable. You don't want to set targets that you hit 2, 3 times, 4 times a year. You have to set targets that you hit, 8, 9 times out of the year.
Right.
And yeah, maybe some months you don't pay out as much because obviously it wasn't a great month, but you want some trickle of bonus going to people virtually every month so that you can start to shape how people behave through the bonus.
Let's talk about that, because
Yeah.
these other staff that have fallen victim to this really assertive person who lets the practice be shaped to her personality, they will tell you, the doctor, they tell us, the consultants, but because of the danger of upsetting this person, they say it in ways that are so oblique, so subtle, you might not even know what they're saying. A lot of times they warn you, she's killing the practice. They don't say it in those terms, but they also let you know, our bonus, yeah, she's killing the bonus too. So you have to learn to know when to take things incredibly seriously. You've learned as a doctor to read patients' faces and to do it fast. That's what Wes and I do. We've learned to read staff, and when they tell us there's a little problem, we know that it's probably metastasized. It's ugly.
Yeah, definitely. So bonus, yeah, and you want to shape behavior with bonus. So we're big on what we call eat what you kill bonus systems, meaning you do this, you get this, and less so on kind of a team arching goal. Although we do still advocate some of that, but we're pretty big on shaping people's behavior through an individual bonus for each person, each department.
Without that, Wes, I hate to say it, but the vast majority of the time, you end up in a practice that you're a bad fit for it. You don't even fit into your own practice because it went its own way. The stars start disappearing from customer service.
I kind of taken note of this over, I don't know, last few years on people I felt like were intrinsically motivated, meaning they're going to do a stellar job with or without a bonus. And sure, you could probably argue that they do even better with the bonus, but there's definitely motivation in who they are. I would say it's about 10% of the population has this
It's more
intrinsic
so new people, yeah.
and they have this intrinsic motivation to do real well. And then you have a large part of the population who you can manipulate through a bonus to actually perfect their game, so to speak. And then you have around 25% of the population or so who are not motivated by bonus or aren't intrinsically motivated. And when you try to motivate a team and you're seeing 2 or 3 or 4 people are just not motivated through bonus and they're not intrinsically motivated, it's a bad sign.
They're a bad fit.
They're a bad fit. Most doctors' conclusion is I just need more of this 10%. that I'm
Or
talking
I
about.
need more new
Train-
patients.
I
when
need
the
more,
product-
yeah, I need more of this 10%. How do I get a whole team of this 10% of people that are intrinsically motivated? The answer is you can't. Those people tend to stay in their jobs. They don't move around. Doctors value them so much that they don't bounce around from job to job to job. And so you can't really build a team of these super A players. And my point is, you got to get the bonus really working in your practice if you
If
really
you
want
want to reshape your practice, otherwise it's going to shape you or it's going to try.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Good.
All right. Thanks for listening.